Ask.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah.
Start again.
We'll work on that. I'll read this.
Mayor Claffey, I move that Morgan Smith be appointed as acting clerk of council for the recordation of proceedings of city council in its work session and regular meeting of January 11th, 2024. And that she be authorized and directed to sign and execute such documents as are necessary and proper regarding the presence of council members, a quorum, consideration, and voting.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Michelle Edwards. I will take the roll. Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Ms. Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. And thank you, Morgan. We're glad to have you back. You have much experience doing this, and we know it'll go smoothly. And if I call you Mr. Kessinger, please smack me.
That's right. We're indistinguishable.
All right, and I will entertain a motion for consideration of the work session and regular meeting agendas.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Woods. Ms. Smith, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor Claffey.
Aye. Very good. And that brings us to the Friends of the Library presentation. And I see Sarah is here.
Sorry to get that. I don't think I need to introduce Sarah Scribb as our amazing director of the library.
We're excited to have you, Sarah, and the Friends of the Library as well. So proceed.
We're jumping ahead. There we are. Well, thank you for having us here tonight. I'm thrilled to be here to introduce representatives from the Friends of the Staunton Library. They have an exciting project they want to tell you about. I'm joined by, who do we have behind me? President Howard Cater. Joyce Schellenberger, our secretary, is sick tonight. She couldn't make it. We have Kenan Bowen, previously of the board and now working on this committee. Jerry Bryant and Bonnie Goff, who are members of the Friends.
Very good. Welcome.
So I thought I'd just start this off by explaining a little bit of the background for this project. During the pandemic, we moved a lot of our programming and events to our back lawn. However, we soon found it wasn't terribly accessible or easy to use for staff to set up these programs and for the community to navigate that space. As you can see, it's a grassy area. We're using lawn chairs and blankets. It's pretty sunny. But we've continued to use this space because it's a beautiful setting. But what the Friends would like to possibly do is create a terrace in our backyard. And I'll turn it over to Kenan now.
Thank you. I'm Kenan Bowen and happy to be here. We are excited to propose this idea of enhancing that piece of property and making it into something that'll be used a lot, and we're calling it a terrace. We looked at the one at Stewart Hall and found out that Ray Burkholder of Balzer and Associates had designed their amphitheater. And so we're trying to do something on a much smaller scale. So we're calling it a terrace. And Ray felt like that area was a good fit, and he said he would help us. So then we met with Amanda Kaufman, who really told us how to proceed, who to get in touch with. And we started talking to city officials such as Jerry Glover, Chris Hull, John Blair, Matthew Sensabaugh. And they sometimes just through email, sometimes they came to the site and gave us lots of information, and all seemed pretty enthusiastic about the idea. So that is that. I'm going to turn it over to Howard, who's going to explain a little bit more about what this is.
Okay, I'm Howard Cater. Thank you for listening to us. The next slide gives you an idea about the scale of the project. It's somewhere close to 32 feet. In terms of a patio space, there are two curved wooden seating arrangements behind that. Plus, I don't have a pointer, but there's seating closer to the library as well. The upper right-hand corner shows you what the Stewart Hall situation is like. Because we are environmental stewards, we're looking at the patio to not be a source of runoff. And those are different examples of permeable surfaces that can be used. In addition to that, accessibility is really an important concept, and there's not a lot of room to do this. And so Ray at Balzers has come up with this design. In the middle there, it's a ramp with areas to turn around a wheelchair to try to fit into that area. And so that's the proposed diagram. Some of this will result in, like, these two trees that are in front of the library there. The cherry trees will have to be removed, and there'll be some grading that's done. So next slide. In addition to these other features, we're looking at a sail type of approach for shading, because now there's going to be direct sunlight in the afternoon in the summertime. And you can see there that these are tensioned membranes. They can be water permeable, or they can not be. And we're looking at the idea about being able to take these down with a simple type of crank situation. In addition, and I talked to Sarah about this, there's no real lighting out there now. So there are two lights here that are shown on that diagram. One of the lights is embedded in the stonework, and the other is a freestanding light. And we will, I think we're partial to the embedded lights that are in the wall, but it would improve lighting in the area and security and so on. So those are some of the features that we're looking at.
We are going to pay attention to the rest of the trees, however. Matthew Sensabaugh, talked about them and protecting the root systems and everything. So we are trying to keep all of those because of all the good shade around the perimeter. We're also going to keep a careful eye on all the memorials. There's a sensory garden, there's a peace pole, and there's some 2 or 3 benches that are there. So the benches might be moved, but everything else will be there. And some of them will probably be fixed up a little bit. And then the neighbors, we will let them know when construction starts and explain it to them so that they don't have to worry about what's going on in their area. Okay. Then we will have to interview contractors, and we'll have to start with the contractors who will be helping us with the sale, the shades, because we have to get sort of the scope for that so that when we interview the landscaping contractors, they can work together. So that will take some time. Ray is going to help us. There's another person, Ryan Gunling is going to help us too with some of the interviewing. So we will, after we do all that, we'll set up a timeline, and then we plan to have an open house, and especially for neighbors, so they can come and see what we're doing. We want to reassure them that it's for story time or little lunch music. We're not going to have rock concerts or something out there. So I think anyone do you have any questions?
How many do you anticipate being able to seat?
Could be 50 maybe, or they're stone actually, bent like.
So are you going to be able to bring your own folding chair and put it up there, or are you going to sit on the stone, or how?
I think the idea is for sitting on the stone.
Okay.
I suppose we are going to have it handicap accessible. So if someone's in a wheelchair or something, then
they sit down in the lower portion.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of room on the side or in the front. So they would have room for that.
I think it's a great utilization, and I know we need it. It'll be wonderful.
The tiers, we talked with them, they would be designed wide enough to get a zero turn or other lawnmower through there. So it would allow, seating on the edge of the tier, but then you could bring possibly lawn chairs and set them up. There'd be enough room for people to sit and walk through it as well.
Sarah?
And the remaining hill is still there too, if people want to bring blankets and everything.
Right.
We kind of designed it around our average and largest story times that we host.
Can you mentioned, I saw the picture prior where you actually showed the curvature. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I thought I heard at the beginning you talked about wood seating. Maybe I misunderstood that.
That was one of the options. They haven't finalized any of the decisions in terms of materials, but they presented several options in terms of concrete, brick,
Wood
stone, a wood topped one. Yeah, but none of that's been finalized. They didn't want to go too far without bringing the whole concept to you all first.
Gotcha. Okay.
Probably sell Friends of the Library cushions.
Ooh, that could be a fundraiser. Great idea. I think it's a wonderful project. I'm enthused, and I've often thought that area is tailor-made for this, so it'll be great.
The friends are very excited to do it too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent. Questions from council? The financial concerns, how is this going to be handled?
The friends are intending to pay for it in its entirety. Yeah. There will be no need for city funding or even a real fundraising effort.
Now you really peaked.
Yeah. Already those book sales down.
That's right.
There we go. There we go. Excellent.
Good question.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
Sarah, when do you think this could start? And Kenan, I'm sorry.
So I think it depends on the contractor interviews, and then it'll be dependent on their work schedules.
Right.
So it's going to be driven by the company they decides to work with. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's 4 contractors that Ray has approached and who are interested. So I think that they could, once they got the go ahead and everything, it won't take that long, they said. So fingers crossed.
Terrific.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Any further questions?
Just one thing, if council is supportive of this, the next step from the city side would be to put a voluntary contribution agreement together with the friends. And that would be similar to what was done in 2020 when the Rotary Club donated the picnic shelter to Montgomery Hall Park.
Well,
yeah, I'm supportive.
Consider it everybody's in favor of, and proceed as you see fit. And once again, thank you to the library and the Friends of the Library. And Sarah, you guys got an outstanding program going there. So
we do, and we have outstanding friends.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Outstanding.
Yes, we do.
All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the overview of Conflict of Interest Act and Statement of Economic Interest. Mr. Blair.
I don't think I have to introduce Mr. Blair.
Good early evening, Mayor Claffey and council. I guess it was back in November, the mayor had talked to me and just said that he would like for me to present a brief presentation to you all about the Statement of Economic Interest. So just some very brief remarks, and then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Virginia first adopted a Conflict of Interest Act in 1970. The act has undergone a couple of major revisions in that time period, one in 1987 and one in 2014. As you know, when you all ran for council, you have to fill out the Statement of Economic Interest. And then if you are elected to council, you have to fill out a yearly Statement of Economic Interest. It is, I don't mean to single out Councilor Campbell, but you get the joy of, since it's a special election and you took office in December, as a condition to assume the office, you have to fill out one. And then unfortunately, you have to fill out another one for this year, though I doubt there's much to change, but that is the rule. Why is this Conflict of Interest Act and Statement of Economic Interest? What's the state's policy rationale? It's in the statute. It wants the public to have trust in elected officials, and it also wants elected officials to act in the public's interest and not for their own private interest. And the vehicle the state has chosen is the Statement of Economic Interest. That's the window of transparency for the public to ensure that private interests are not affecting your own judgment. So the statement is required to be filed with the clerk of council. And while Ms. Smith is acting that way tonight, I think Mr. Kessiker has provided these forms to all of you. It is due by February the 1st. If you do not complete it and turn it in by that time, there is a $250 civil penalty. The statement itself is available to the public. However, your personal information is redacted if somebody makes a request for the statement. Just to let you know, the other city officials that are required to fill, and it's called the long form. Now, the Planning Commission fills out a smaller form, but you all fill out the long form, and you and the Economic Development Authority directors, as well as school board members, fill this out on an annual basis. Just to go over a few things in your statement that I think might be of help, I hope. You are to list your personal liabilities in Schedule B. But one thing about your personal liabilities is if you have a mortgage on your place of residence and there's a deed of trust recorded, you do not have to list that in that liability section. And the reason being, the state's policy rationale is that the mortgages and deeds of trust are recorded in the courthouse. So that's already a public record. Second, there is a real estate holdings provision in there. Just to let you know, you are not required to list your principal residence on that particular part of the statement. Third, I want to talk a little bit about gifts. One thing that I just want to say, I was recommended by the Virginia Municipal League, and I sit on the State Conflict of Interest Council. And one thing that the council likes to emphasize to people who want to serve the public is that this is not something to be scared of, okay? Sometimes when people hear gifts, there are folks who think, oh my gosh, I can't take anything from anyone. And I want to, try to alleviate some of those fears. You have to report any gifts you received. However, that does not apply to relatives and personal friends unless the relatives are lobbyists or they are an organization that hires lobbyists, or there's somebody who wants a contract with the city or is party to a contract with the city. So if your spouse gives you a gift for your birthday, and they're not a lobbyist, or they're not someone who's hired a lobbyist or a party to a contract with the city or wants to be part of a contract with the city, you don't have to list that. This is not about saying, gotcha, your son or daughter or gave you a $15 gift and you didn't report it somehow, and these questions do arise. I mean, people do ask the council a number of questions about gifts. And again, one thing I do want to convey in this brief talk is unless somebody is part of the lobbying effort or trying to get a contract with the city and they're your relative or your personal friend, you don't have to worry about that. That's not what this act is meant to capture. The act is meant to capture somebody who wants to do business with the city and they're giving you a gift. Perhaps the public can make its own inferences to influence your decision making. So again, I hope that alleviates some of the concerns. Another thing I'd like to talk about with the gift section is that there is a $108 cap on the value of gifts you may receive from a lobbyist, someone who hires a lobbyist, or somebody who is trying to do business with the city. However, that does not apply to what's called a widely attended event. You still would have to list the gift, but it does not, you are not prohibited from taking a gift worth more than $108. Now, where does this come into play? That's perhaps more likely at a local level. I don't know, but sometimes a chamber of commerce might hold a dinner. And the cost of admission and the dinner itself may exceed the $108 gift limit. And Chamber of Commerce might try to lobby or they are part, I guess, of a lobbying group that does hire lobbyists at the state, the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. But a widely attended event is a group of 25 or more people who are part of a professional or civic organization or who come together for a common interest. And again, the COIA Council has issued ethics advisory opinions about this. And again, something like a Chamber of Commerce dinner, if they were to say, come, be our guest. I know the NAACP has a prayer breakfast, I believe. I don't know if they have admission, but clearly the meal itself does have value that you would report. But it's a widely attended event. There's 25 or more people at these events. People are coming together to discuss common issue, perhaps the city of Staunton's well-being, something of that nature. So again, I'm here to answer any questions you may have, but I hope some of that is helpful to you as you fill out your form.
Thank you. I want to make mention that when I attended the VML conference in October down in Norfolk, I went to the conflict of interest. What was it, a breakout session, I guess they called it. And I'm reading my form, and I turned to the back page, and who do we think is one of the 3 directors of the conflict of interest thing?
Mr. Blair.
Our own city attorney. And I said, well, we better get him to speak to our own organization since he's counseling the entire state. So I thought it'd be interesting. I know Adam's new, but I think most of us have not been on council that many years. So it's probably beneficial that we get it all rehashed, questions. So I've asked my questions, but I don't know if you all have any.
Quick question: does someone inviting you out to dinner count as a gift? Someone pays for you to go out to dinner with them, and it exceeds $108. Well, because you had a lot of drinks.
A lot of drinks. A lot of drinks.
A lot of drinks.
I guess the first question is: are they a member of your family, or are they a personal friend? And let's say that they are. Then the next question
but no, I mean, they're not. No.
They're not.
If they're not, no.
Okay. Are they a lobbyist? A lobbyist principal, meaning somebody who hires a lobbyist?
What if it's another official in a municipality?
Another official? Well, let me ask this. Are they a lobbyist for that municipality?
I guess not strictly speaking.
And does that municipality hire lobbyists?
I mean, elected official. That's
okay, they're an elected official.
Yeah.
It probably would not. However, one thing would not qualify as a gift to report.
Okay.
However, are they trying to get in some agreement with the city of Staunton? like a regional agreement?
Right.
Are they trying, or are they a party to a regional
Right.
agreement? If they are, then I would say that that should be reported.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Appreciate it, John. We look like we have a big gap here.
Get ahead of schedule.
Are we ahead of
No,
schedule?
I believe we have a pretty
We're
major.
right on,
Okay.
5:30.
Okay.
Let's say 5:26.
It says 6:05.
Us?
Oh,
No, that's a mistake.
All
I didn't
right.
mean for his to go on for that long.
I didn't think so.
I
that was a
thought maybe you
5-minute.
didn't have faith in Mr.
That's
Blair.
weird.
to-
I can't
I
believe
can
we-
read it.
Precise,
I'll
yeah.
read the
So
act.
we completely missed that. So no, we are really right on schedule. That was just a big fat typo. So
Okay, no
sorry about
problem.
How
that.
do they do it in the business? They go, stretch it out, stretch it out.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is a closed meeting for the discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the city of Staunton's bargaining position. I entertain a motion.
Mayor Claffey, I move to enter a closed meeting for the discussion of the award of a public contract for architectural and engineering services involving the expenditure of public funds where the discussion in an open session would adversely affect the city of Staunton's bargaining position pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A29.
Motion has been made by Mr. Campbell. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Arrowood. Ms. Smith, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we will be in closed session and we will return at 6:59 before the regular meeting starts. You're lying. All right, come on, Mark. Somebody want to?
Mayor Claffey?
Yes.
I move that council reconvene in an open meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge that only lawfully exempted public business matters were discussed and that only public business matters as identified in the closed meeting motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Woods. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Mayor Claffey, I'll second that.
Thank you. Ms. Smith.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Miss Edwards, Vice Mayor Darby. Aye. Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Sorry for being a minute late, but for those of you who do not know, we have a acting clerk of council tonight. Morgan Smith is here to fill in for Kylie, who has departed. to go get married. So,
Married.
He's coming back. We told him not to do it, but he did. All right. Could you all please join me for Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And tonight's moment of silence invocation will be presented by Councilor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor Claffey. I hope everyone had a happy holidays and New Year's. Personally, for me, this time leading up to Christmas through New Year's has always been a time of family, warmth, celebration, giving, and reflection, both on the past year and looking forward to next. While many are fortunate enough to share similar experiences during this time of year, we all know that many are not, and that the past few weeks have been no different from any other week of hardships, uncertainty, and needs. As a result, November and December are always times of increased giving and volunteering to support those not as fortunate. National trends show that the holiday season is the most critical time for charities, with many raising 30 to 50% of their annual revenue in those final 2 months of the year. Now that we are well into January, a return to normal schedules, and on week 2 of our New Year's resolutions, which are hopefully still going strong for most of us, I would like to encourage all of us not to let up on the holiday spirit of giving back to our community and assisting with the needs of those not as fortunate. There are countless opportunities to volunteer and give back, no matter how much time you may be able to give. All you need to do is look and act. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Very nice. All right, that brings me to the mayor's report, and a happy new year to all. And indeed, it's been a blur since our last meeting in early December. On a sad note, right before Christmas, we lost Baldwin Jennings, who for over 50 years attended all of these meetings and made some very interesting comments throughout his career. And then I see this past week, we also lost Cynthia Tyson, who was the president of Mary Baldwin for 20-some years. I think we're going to miss both of these people very much. Rest in peace, both of you. But it's New Year's and the city is wide open this morning. It was in high gear. I went to an EDA meeting at 8:30. I was late to the Tourism Advisory Board that started at 9:30 because the first meeting ran over. And interestingly enough, at the Tourism Advisory Board, they brought up the fact that on January 17th through the 19th, the directors from all over state of Virginia will be coming for the Virginia Main Street Association. So be expecting to see them in downtown Staunton. Hotel 24, of course, is hosting them. And so they're coming up here to see how it's really supposed to be done. So congratulations to our city for, being able to host this and being a exemplary instance of Main Street America. Also, at the meeting this morning, they discussed the Martin Luther King January 15th program will be up here at Central Methodist. And again, I asked all members of council to come and join me. We're being asked to present a proclamation like we did last year this time. So I hope you all will be able to join me on that evening, 7 o'clock on Monday the 15th. And that's about it for me, but I want to turn the floor over to Ms. Beauregard for a second. Sure. And we have a new employee here, and I think she's going to introduce.
We do. I would like to introduce Josh Knight. If you can stand up, please. He is the city's new engagement and communications manager. It was a long time coming. He's been here a week and a few days. I promise I wouldn't make him say anything tonight. I'm sure he'll be saying a lot in the future. He's getting his, he's literally running right now around meeting with departments, learning all about the city of Staunton. And we're so happy to have him join our team. And I'm selfishly so happy to have the city manager's office finally fully staffed, which feels a little bit weird, but it's like too many people in the office, but I love it. It's great. So welcome, Josh. And I hope everybody gets to know him, and we'll reach out to him. And I think it's going to be a great partnership with him and as a member of our team. So
welcome to the city of Staunton. We're glad to have you, Josh.
Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to additional items by members of council. Who else has something to interject?
A lot of us have the same thing. There was on Tuesday, there's the the West End Interactive Revitalization Strategy meeting over there at the EMS office there. A number of us were in attendance there. It was a great overview and gathering of ideas for revitalization of the West End, ongoing projects there. Really great attendance, especially on such a truly gross night as far as the rain and all that. And today I had a chance to go to a meeting this afternoon. There was kind of a continuation of the housing summit that happened a couple of months ago. It was covering issues in the Staunton, Augusta, Waynesboro area, having to do with property managers and affordability of housing for people in the area too. There were a lot of interesting things brought up there. It got a little contentious at times, but it was just a good thing to be a part of. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Very good. Very good. All right. No other comments from members of council? Ms. Beauregard and I did attend a meeting this afternoon at the Augusta Governance Center, and it was sponsored by the chamber. It was a leadership class, and they just asked for explanations of how things work with the city of Staunton versus Augusta County, and so it was an interesting meeting. There was about 20 participants there, so we had a good time this afternoon. So it's been quite a full day. So let's get to the meeting. And the first item is the consent agenda. Per procedure memorandum number 14 is the policy of city council to have routine, non-controversial items placed on the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be voted on in one motion. If a separate discussion of an item is requested by any member of council, that item should be removed and considered separately at the end of the regular meeting. Do any council members desire to remove any item from the consent agenda to be placed at the regular meeting? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Claffey.
Yes, Councilor Woods.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Smith, could you call the roll, please?
Miss Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is a public hearing and consideration of resolution authorizing stadium license agreement between the city and Mary Baldwin University.
yes, Mr. John Blair, the city attorney, will talk through this item. Mr. Chris Tuttle, Parks and Rec Director, is also here if you have any questions.
Good evening, Mayor Claffey, members of council. You may recall at your September 14th, 2023 meeting, there was an item before you concerning Mary Baldwin University's baseball team receiving a license to use the baseball field through May 13th of 2024. At that time, the council's preference was to have the license agreement end December 31st of 2023. Mr. Tuttle and city staff, and I believe maybe a counselor or two, have met with Mary Baldwin. And it has been agreed by the city to present to council tonight, city staff to present to council tonight, a license agreement that would run from February 1st through May 13th of this year to allow the Mary Baldwin University baseball team to use Moxie Field. And that is before you. And I don't know if Mr. Tuttle, you have anything? No.
Questions from council?
John? So Mary Baldwin has not offered 1 cent. Is that true? To help with John Moxley?
Again, I'm just here for the license, but Mr. Tuttle, I think, can answer the question.
That's right. Okay. Mayor, members of council, we've met with Mary Baldwin on 2 separate occasions over the last year. And at this point, there is no financial commitment from them at this point moving forward. The last meeting was with their new president and several of their staff, but I don't have any other information to share as far as their financial support.
Okay. So they expect us, and from what I read a little bit, the city's got to make sure that it's playable, and they've got to clean up. And
well, the Mary Baldwin, once they arrive, will take care of the field as far as marking, dragging, trash pickup. So that park maintenance isn't going to step in and do that for them. So when they're on the premises, it's their responsibility to keep it clean.
Have we heard anything from the outfit that we had contacted to analyze the field and the needs?
We have. They've been working on site over the last month. The original contract for the group was Thompson and Litton that we entered into with. They have 90 days to present us their final product, and that would be in March. But they are working. They were here today, actually.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
All right. So just for background for anybody that's concerned, I mean, we are doing an analysis of the baseball stadium, and it definitely has not been renovated in the last 60 years to the best of our knowledge, and it is in bad shape, and the right field is significantly lower than the rest of the field. There are safety hazards throughout, and we're trying to look at this and see what the best course of action was being. And during our discussions with Mary Baldwin, we had asked if they would like to participate in the renovation process. And that's the part that we have heard crickets, as the saying goes. So we're still seeking their assistance, and we're going to seek the Braves' assistance as well in this undertaking, but so far we haven't heard anything.
To us, this is our high school field.
Right.
I mean, though we're in the tier of users, we're the 3rd heaviest user on this. So I think the question is, obviously the facility needs help. It needs some help along the way, not to the detriment of other facilities in the city that need help as well. But we do want to have a good usable high school field. But our talks with Mary Baldwin determine what sort of renovation we do on this over the years.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Maybe I will ruffle some feathers, but when it comes right down to it, in good faith, I will not and I cannot vote yes on this. So I will be voting no. I'm just letting you know that. If they have crickets, I'll do a cricket myself.
Mayor Clappy, this is before us tonight. This is strictly a license agreement to give them permission to use an existing field, not asking for any type of commitment to.
Correct. And this is during the spring cycle. And of course, we're still in the 90 days to do this review of the facility. Right. And it's not going to involve any of that. So this is just to get them through spring ball until the end of school.
Right.
But
and then it'll be up to them if they want to come back and.
Well, if that relationship continues, then we would come back in the fall with a new contract.
Once we have
and then again, by the fall, hopefully we're going to have the Staunton will be finished using it and the Braves will be finished using it. And I'm assuming that if we're going to do any renovations, it's going to have to be in the August fall period, if that's what we're going to be able to do.
By then, we would also have some specific numbers from the study to share with our partners.
Hopefully.
Right.
Correct.
They could still at least talk a little bit about money.
Which is why I understand your impulse, and I feel that way too. I just currently, before we have numbers, I'm personally fine with this brief continuation of this standing agreement.
I understand. I'm just talking about, it's a matter of just good faith on my part.
Once we start moving forward, though, I would share that sentiment.
All right. Well, I will entertain a motion in that case.
Do we have to have a public hearing on this?
Oh, we're going to, all right. Yes, we do have a public hearing scheduled for this. So in a moment, I will open up the public hearing. It is the time that council sets aside to hear from citizens about the Moxie Stadium issue. We ask that you please give your name, your address, keep your remarks at 5 minutes or less. When you reach the 5-minute time limit, I'll let you know that your time limit has expired. For any Zoom participants, please raise your hand now and call in. Once everyone has had an opportunity to speak, I will close the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on the Moxie Stadium issue? Ms. Smith, do we have anybody on?
We do have someone with their hand raised.
All right. Caller, can you go ahead? Caller, can you hear me?
I think I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Thank you. This is Brenda Mead, 342 Sherwood Avenue. I don't have a problem with extending this agreement for another 3 months, but I do have, I want to express again my strong objections to the $2 million that you all have earmarked to renovate this stadium. We have so many needs in this city. We drip a bare bit of money every year into the sidewalks fund. We have bathrooms that need renovating at Gypsy Hill Park. You've spent $200,000, or you're spending $200,000 of ARPA money to evaluate the needs for Moxie Stadium. I just think there are too many other important things that this city needs to be spending money on besides Moxie Stadium. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? All right, in that case, the public hearing is over. I entertain a motion.
Mayor Claffey.
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the city council approve the resolution authorizing the license agreement between the city and Mary Baldwin University for the use of John Moxie Memorial Baseball Stadium as noted in the license agreement, and further authorize and direct the city manager to sign the license agreement with such modifications in final form as approved by the city attorney.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Campbell. Ms. Smith.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
No.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now that brings us to public hearing and ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2024 budget ordinance for the city of Staunton by adding budget amendment number 2. Ms. Beauregard.
Sure. Jesse Moyers, the CFO, will walk through this. And just a quick reminder, this is just a public hearing. There's no motion required after the public hearing. This will be on consideration for the next meeting. So this is just public hearing and information from Ms. Moyers and a chance for you all to ask additional questions. So.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So this is our second budget amendment to the fiscal year 2024 budget. Like she said, it's being introduced tonight. I'll bring it back or it will be on the consent agenda, either one, at the next scheduled meeting, which is January 25th. It does require a public hearing, which was properly advertised on January 4th. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. It's a little lengthy, but I feel like you need to know what you're approving at the next meeting. So just stop me if you have questions or if you want more information on any particular item. The total budget amendment is $30,374,811. The city portion of that is $22,643,657. General fund is $7.1 million, and included that is the following: $24,222 for opioid settlement funds. That is what's been received so far in fiscal 24. $369,500 of interest income. We have been able to earn a good amount of interest this year on our money due to the market. This is what the general fund will earn the first half of the fiscal year. And like I discussed at a previous meeting with you, that is going to cover 3 patrol cars for police department. And most of these are unfunded requests that were in the FY24 budget that we just could not fund then. $45K for the marketing of the crossing. We still have some ARPA funds to use for that. So if we don't use all that 45,000, it will just revert back to the bottom line at the end of FY24. $50,000 for replacing the trees at the wharf. As you know, they're pushing up the sidewalk. And we need to do something about that for safety reasons. $41,500 for the entrance corridor overlay, and then $8,000 for body worn cameras for the sheriff's office. Next is a $3,000 IT grant for GIS software, a negative adjustment of $547 for the clerk of the court trust funds, $11,314 for insurance recoveries, with the biggest item in there being the merry-go-round that was damaged. $4,750 for a safety grant for police department, $15,200 for a DMV grant for overtime for the police department, $6,000 library grant, $57,734 for additional state funds for the library that the state had passed this past fall, $23,270 to reappropriate ARPA funding. This is West End and Uniontown ARPA money. We have to reappropriate it because that's not a multi-year fund that would carry over. At this time, we may not need those funds. And if those studies are both completed and it's still there, we'll move it to the courthouse line. So the next $944,518 is to appropriate fund balance. And these are designated or restricted funds. So there's no leeway here in how we use them. $131,158 is for opioid funds that was received prior fiscal year. $20,342 for state forfeited assets. $111,185 for police department, state, and federal forfeited assets. $77,090 for life funds and fire program funds. $595,552 for VDOT reimbursement carryover, and $9,191 for parks and rec and horticulture carryover funds. The next was based on my presentation to you in December, and this is appropriation of the undesignated funds from the carryover, which equal $5,650,000 and include the $85,000 that we're setting aside for the Valley Supportive Housing, $4,315,000 transferred to the CIP, and I'll go over what's in that right below that, and $1,250,000 for the landfill capital needs. So then we move to the capital improvements fund, which is almost $6.2 million. And the amount that's coming in from the general fund carryover is $3 million that we're setting aside for the JDR courthouse and West End complex construction. $765,000 is from our CIP. And this is just specific projects. This does not include any of our reserves. Like I said, we're going to delay that decision to the end of the fiscal year once we have more information on what this courthouse is going to end up costing us. And for this purpose, I included CAD and MOXIE as part of the reserves because those are multi-year funding. And then $450,000 was the amount, the shortfall in the VDOT paving and the HUD sidewalk project. And then $100,000 transfer for the comprehensive plan. That's what totals the $4.3 million that is going from fund balance to the CIP fund. And then in the CIP fund is an appropriation of $1,732,332, and that is the VDOT grant revenue that we need to appropriate in that fund. And then $142,527 is recovered cost, and that is Augusta County and Waynesboro's share of the consultant, the initial phase of the emergency radio project. The bond fund for $94,793, that is leftover money from the high school construction. That is mainly a result of bond premium and interest that was earned. And we're just going to transfer that to the schools to use for the high school and zero that fund out. Grants Fund, 5,244 is a DMV grant for 2 radar units. The Water Fund, 5,930,000. That is our ARPA funding for the Gardner Springs. So happy to have that in there. Sewer Fund amendment is 198,275 from the Sewer Fund fund balance, and that is for the Clarifier 3 project at the wastewater treatment plant. Environmental Fund is 2,122,813. That includes 2,949 for the DEQ grant adjustment, 869,864 to reappropriate ARPA funds because the Environmental Fund is not a multi-year fund. That is our trash modernization and some leftover funds for the recycling that will probably eventually be moved to the courthouse project. And then you see the other half of the 1,250,000 for the landfill capital. Stormwater amendment is 950,000. That is another reappropriation of ARPA because the stormwater fund is not a multi-year fund. Only our CIP fund is. And that is the tunnel and the flood shields grants. HUD fund amendment 43,712. That's a local share of the West Beverly sidewalk project. And then we move into the school funds. Education fund is 2,994,891. It includes the following: federal operating grants, 2,293,395. That is their Title I, Title VI, and their ESSER funds. Recruitment and retention grant of 30,000. Virginia all-in, 192,360. Restricted amounts from their fund balance, 83,234. They need an appropriation to cover the SVRP, which is the regional program for the special ed students, of 116,544. And then the 275 is their funding their CIP from their fund balance. Versa grant of 4,000. And then they have some salvage and surplus of $358. Next, we move to this school CIP, 4,464,356. School security equipment grant for prior years, 374,600. The ARPA, it's ARP HVAC grant that they received, 26,051. The 194,446 is where we're appropriating the interest that they have earned on their CIP funds, and they will be using that to purchase 2 activity buses. 3,258,962 is a transfer from the city CIP funds. And I'm going to walk you through this one so you know what this is. So we have already appropriated this on the city side. It was the $2.5 million that we were giving the schools to make up for the lower contribution right after COVID. 358,962 was their building fund maintenance that is in our CIP, and then 400,000 that was already set aside for the schools in our CIP. These amounts have never been appropriated on the school side, so this is just appropriating them on the school side, and so that we can move those funds over to them. You won't see that on the city side because it was already done years ago. And then the 275, that is the money coming in from the education fund to their CIP fund. And then the school security equipment grant for this year, 244,505. The SOP funds, that's our detention center and the CCCA. There's just a small appropriation there of additional funds for 3,687. And then school cafeteria, 268,220. And that is made up from just appropriating their carryover for their restricted funds, 41,667. They got a USDA equipment grant, which will allow them to buy 5 major pieces of equipment for 5 different schools of 214,599. Chef Ann grant of 2,500. EBT admin funds of 3,256. And finally, EBT admin funds for prior years of 6,198. Any questions?
Can you repeat that, please?
Jesse, what did you say for the school side where the ESSER funds are? Where that's the
federal operating grants for 2,293,395. That is multiple grants. It's Title I, it's Title VI, and carryover ESSER funds that were not part of the original FY24 budget.
Questions from council?
I like the way that you broke this down.
Yes. This is a huge amendment, and it's probably hopefully the biggest one of the year.
I just want to note it's only number 2.
I know.
Last year we had many more. So
I'm trying to keep it down this year.
Yeah.
Last year there was a lot of special ones due to ARPA.
What you said, Mayor.
We're in 6 months and we're only on the second.
I know. I heard what
we're probably only going to have 3.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Like 20 something.
We had a lot last year, but look at us. Yeah, we're trying to be more efficient, and
probably why it was so long.
It was long though,
and
but it was
now
okay.
It's so much I can't even comprehend it all. You can't.
Well, you can always reach out to me over the next 2 weeks if you have any specific questions before you vote on it.
No, this is nice. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Adam,
for Ms.
do you
Moores?
understand everything on here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to recall I'll follow back up with you, Ms. Moyer.
Okay.
There's a couple I can't recall what all is in it, but.
Okay.
Please reach out to Ms. Moyers, and so if there are any more questions for her before you open the public hearing.
No, let us open up the public hearing. We ask that you please give your name, your address, keep your remarks at 5 minutes concerning the amendment to the 2024 budget ordinance. So I will now open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on the public hearing concerning this financial issues? Quiet crowd tonight. Must be January.
I have no one with their hands raised.
The public hearing is now closed. All right.
Sorry.
First meeting.
Good to have you back, Morgan. You were doing so awesome. Are we good?
Okay.
All right. That brings us to the next item, which is the consideration of disposition of Staunton Crossing property.
Mr. Blair.
Oh, I was trying to figure out who was doing this. Mr. Blair's walking up to the podium.
Again, good evening, Mayor Claffey, members of council. Thank you, sir. Before you tonight is a real estate contract to sell approximately 4.9 acres of land in the Staunton Crossing development. I want to give you some context for this. As you know, in 2010, the city and the EDA made an agreement. The contribution agreement is in your packet. This was a result of the purchase of the property itself. And the EDA, in consideration of the city's contribution of funds to purchase the property, agreed that it would not convey any property interest to another party without the approval of the city council. In 2016, the EDA and the city council, with the approval process, agreed to sell land to Staunton Crossing Partners, LLC. As part of that transaction, there was an option that was granted to Staunton Crossing Partners, LLC, that they got to purchase a parcel that had 900 square feet of frontage if the road, which is Crossing Way, was built north of the roundabout. And the purchase price at that time, agreed to in the option agreement, was $65,000 per acre. The Staunton Crossing Partners, their legal counsel, did approach the city and the EDA, approached myself and Mr. Vaughn, should say first, about purchasing this land pursuant to the option agreement. With the 900 square feet, we worked out, now I don't know how in 2016 they came up with the idea that it'd be 1.5 to 2 acres. We looked at And Billy, you can, we looked at about 3 different configurations of that parcel. All were over 4 acres to get the 900 square feet to make it work. So before you tonight is a contract. And again, the agreed upon price in that option agreement from 2016 is $65,000 per acre. This is 4.9 acres. So Staunton Crossing Partners would be paying the city approximately $318,000. Again, this is, the city council has to, as part of that contribution agreement, give the okay to the EDA to actually convey the property. The EDA did vote at its November 30th meeting, and it's unanimous vote to convey this property. But again, it was explained to the EDA at the time by legal counsel that the city council ultimately has to also approve of the sale.
Questions of Mr. Blair?
I mean, really, this is a deal made back in 2016, coming to fruition. So we really.
Mr. Goldenberg, you have any comments? Nothing. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council approve the Staunton Economic Development Authority sale of 4.904 acres of the property at Staunton Crossing as presented.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Mayor Claffey, I'll second.
Vice Mayor Darby is second. Ms. Smith, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll take checks. All right, at this point, the next item is matters from city manager.
I have a few items this evening. Sorry about my voice, by the way. So if it croaks out, I apologize. As has already been noted, this past Tuesday, a well-attended public kickoff meeting was conducted for the West End revitalization strategy. Additional meetings will be conducted this spring and summer, but we're still taking public input, just to remind everybody. And there's an online survey that can be completed until the end of the month. So if you go to ci.stanton.va.us, it'll be right on our front page, and you can click right on that link. But if you want a low-tech way to submit your comments, there's postcards on the table over there that you can grab, and you can save yourself a stamp by just dropping them off in City Hall, and we'll make sure the right people get those postcards. Speaking of getting input, the biannual community survey officially kicked off this week. Postcards began hitting mailboxes yesterday to invite 3,000 randomly selected households to participate. We really encourage everyone who was randomly selected to take a few minutes to fill this out. Having feedback from our residents allows us to have better information for decision making. If you received a postcard, you can participate either using the URL on your postcard, or if you'd like to fill out a paper survey, you will receive one in the mail in the next week. We ask, though, that you please do not share the link or the paper copy with anybody else. That is for you specifically if you received one. There will be a second option for providing feedback that is open to everyone in the community. Survey will open in early February, and more information about how to participate will be shared as we get closer to that date. The next item is the Green Street designation, which was on council's agenda a few months ago. There will be a ceremony held here in council chambers at 1 p.m. on Friday, January 26th to designate Green Street. This redesignation is being championed by Colonel Melissa Patrick to honor the memories of 2 African-American war heroes from Staunton. Captain William Washington Green Sr., who was a Buffalo soldier and World War I officer decorated for heroism on the battlefield. Captain William W. Green Jr., Tuskegee Airman and Korean War veteran, decorated for his aerial exploits and heroism. This redesignation will honor these designated war heroes in addition to Nathaniel Green, a Revolutionary War hero. Everyone is invited to the ceremony, so please be on the lookout for news about that. And from the Office on Youth, Jenny Newman wanted me to report that the 3 local school systems approached the Office on Youth last summer to develop a partnership to expand their Check and Connect truancy prevention program. They now have a memorandum of agreement with the three schools. That's Waynesboro, Augusta County, and Staunton. And through grants, they're funding a full-time mentor to work with homeless truant youth in our area. Finally, Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which the mayor already talked about a little bit. But just to remind everybody that because of that, city services do change. So if you receive your pickup on Monday, the 15th, if you're a resident, you'll receive it on Wednesday, the 17th. If you are a downtown central business district business, there will be no trash collection on the 15th, but you will get a Tuesday and Wednesday pickup, and then your normal pickup after that for the rest of the week. The recycling center will also be closed on Monday, but it'll have hours on Tuesday, but not on Wednesday, which is normal. The library and the city hall, and actually all city facilities, will be closed also on Monday, the 15th, with regular hours resuming the next day on the 16th. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And that brings us to matters from the public. This is part of the agenda entitled Matters from the Public. It is the time that council sets aside to listen from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. A copy of the rules for matters from the public are available in paper form at the clerk's desk. Please come to the podium, begin your call, identify yourself, and complete your remarks within 5 minutes. Would anyone like to speak under matters from the public this evening? Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Leslie Kipp. I live at 16 Church Street here in the city of Staunton. And I thought that it would be apropos on this these days preceding Martin Luther King's commemorative day that we review briefly, within the 5 minutes allotted me, a brief history of this, the kind of the arc and the trajectory of the civil rights movement in this country. The civil rights has historically been framed as a challenge for the country to live up to its ideal that all men are created equal. In an 1866 Atlantic magazine article charting a path to assure Negro progress, Frederick Douglass reaffirmed that public ideal with this practical advice, quote, "The true way and the easiest way is to make the government entirely consistent with itself." 2 years later, the 14th Amendment codified this ideal by declaring equal protection of the laws as the supreme law of the land. Despite its being written into the Constitution, it is also a fact of history that the nation has often tolerated grotesque breaches of this ideal. The Jim Crow era separated the nation into tribes. It was a time when government trespassed and subsumed individuals into one-dimensional racial groups. During that era, W.E.B. Du Bois, a fierce critic of American shortcomings, penned these words in his book, The Souls of Black Folk, where he reiterated the process for realizing full participation in civic life as this: the ideal of fostering and developing the traits and talents of the Negro, not opposition to our contempt for other races, but rather in large conformity to the greater ideals of the American Republic. This is how he charted the way forward. 60 years later, Martin Luther King Jr. argued that racial groupings were artificial creations and were overshadowed by our common humanity. He challenged the nation to transcend these synthetic artifacts. The notion of a common humanity won the day and lifted the civil rights movement into a position of almost unassailable moral authority. As can be seen from this brief survey, the civil rights and equality advocates have historically embraced the high bar of American ideals by calling for consistent application to all individuals, a consistent application to all individuals, not to groups. This is not so with DEI. The DEI calculus is predicated on the notion that by segregating individuals into groups and then reversing the polarity of discrimination, the advertised goal will be the result. As set forth in the report, the DEI report before you, the first principle of DEI is the classification of individuals into groups. This classification is the historic source of cultural mischief and the denial of opportunity. The recent events at Harvard, where DEI has been the guiding ethos, Jews were singled out as a group to be intimidated. These dramatic events unapologetically unmask the true face of the DEI movement. Again, it's identification of people in groups and dealing with the group. My time does not allow for additional comments on this fallacy. Suffice it to say that DEI is a bait and switch operation, and to reiterate that citizenship is hard work. Thank you very much.
Ms. Smith, we have anybody?
We do have someone with their hand raised.
Caller, go ahead.
This is Brenda Mead, 342 Sherwood Avenue. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I just wanted to say a few more words about Baldwin Jennings. Baldwin was born here in Staunton, went to school in Staunton schools, and he, at the age of 18, joined the U.S. Air Force. It was 1955. And he spent over 5 years in Vietnam. He was heavily decorated. And if you remember your history of the Vietnam War, that period between 1955 and 1960 was the time when the United States had, quote, advisors in Vietnam, but we had a really unclear position there. But Baldwin was he did his duty. He served the country well while he was in Vietnam. You know, I think it's ironic that his middle name is Pleasant. I was on the sort of the barbed end of some of his criticisms more times than I would like while I was on city council. He suffered no fools. He didn't mince words. He believed that if you sat on that dais, you should be tough enough to take some criticism. If he wanted answers, he expected to get them. And I don't think Baldwin knew what a FOIA request was. And he didn't need to because he got answers when he asked questions. Over 50 years of attending city council meetings earned him my respect. Thank you.
You, Brenda.
Would anyone else like to speak? Boy, it's a quiet bunch tonight. All right. Well, before we adjourn, I would like to thank Ms. Morgan Smith for filling in. We missed you over there. It's good to have you back. But thank you for covering for Kylie so that he could slip away for the weekend.
Come back a changed man.
All right. With that, I call this meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.